Scenes of confusion over the weekend as Southwest Airlines canceled scores of flights. This comes as Dr. Fauci says he doesn't think there will be vaccine mandates for domestic flights, at least not in the near future. Hundreds of thousands of members of the U.S. military remain unvaccinated as the Pentagon's vaccine mandate deadlines approach. And the national average price for gas hit a 7-year high as energy demand returns. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Confusion at the airport over the weekend. After massive delays and cancellations, Southwest Airlines canceled over 1,900 flights over the weekend, along with over 1,000 delays each day. Southwest blamed air traffic control problems and disruptive weather along with staffing issues in Florida. But Fort Lauderdale International said the delays were due to poor weather up north. The FAA says issues related to traffic control or staffing only happened for a few hours Friday night, saying no FAA air traffic staffing shortages have been reported since Friday. They added continued scheduling challenges for some airlines were because of aircraft and crews being out of place. There's been speculation about a pilot walkout after Southwest issued a vaccine mandate for employees last week. But the Southwest Airlines Pilots Association says that's not the case, saying, quote, "We can say with confidence that our pilots are not participating in any official or unofficial job actions." The airline is facing a lawsuit over the mandate from a union representing thousands of pilots for Southwest Airlines. Lawyers for the union write the new vaccine mandate unlawfully imposes new conditions of employment, and the new policy threatens termination of any pilot not fully vaccinated by December 8, 2021. The union argues that the COVID-19 vaccines pose a unique risk to pilots because any adverse reaction could affect their ability to pass the medical requirements needed to fly. Last week, the company's CEO told workers that Southwest is a federal contractor, so it has to comply with President Biden's mandate. Since the weekend's cancellations, the airline has not said when its operation will fully return to normal. While many airlines are mandating employees get the vaccine, what about travelers? Dr. Fauci said over the weekend he doesn't immediately expect any vaccine mandate for Americans flying domestically.
I don't want to say support or not. I mean, obviously, from a public health standpoint, the more protection you get, the better it is. But I don't want to be weighing in because we wind up then having people taking things out of context.
Last month, Fauci floated the idea of requiring domestic airline travelers to be fully vaccinated against the virus. Right now, domestic travelers do not need to be vaccinated in order to travel. And amid pushback to vaccine mandates, the White House says the federal government can still fire workers with valid vaccine exemption requests in certain cases. That's despite the vaccine mandate allowing for religious and medical exemptions. According to new guidance posted on the federal government's Safer Federal Workforce Task Force website last week, there may be circumstances in which an agency determines that the nature of an employee's job responsibilities requires heightened safety protocols if they are provided with a legally required exception. The guidelines say in some cases, the nature of the employee's job may be such that an agency determines that no safety protocol other than vaccination is adequate. In such circumstances, the agency may deny the requested accommodation. As for those unvaccinated, the guidelines say those workers have to follow additional protocols, such as masking, physical distancing, and frequent testing, and it could impact workers if they need to travel. So what about exemptions? According to the federal government's Safer Federal Workforce Task Force, determining whether an exception is legally required will include consideration of factors such as the basis for the claim, the nature of the employee's job responsibilities, and the reasonably foreseeable effects on the agency's operations, including protecting other agency employees and the public from COVID-19. The task force adds, to be eligible for a possible exception, you must first establish that your refusal to be vaccinated is based upon a sincere belief that is religious in nature. A refusal to be vaccinated does not qualify for an exception if it is based upon personal preference, concerns about the possible effects of the vaccine, or political opinions. White House officials confirmed earlier this month that all executive branch employees and contractors need to be fully vaccinated by November 8th. Despite those mandates, some areas are still seeing pushback. Hundreds of thousands of members of the U.S. military remain unvaccinated as the Pentagon's vaccine mandate deadline approaches. According to a review of data published in Sunday's Washington Post, the rate of COVID-19 vaccination among the armed services varies a great deal. For instance, vaccine compliance in the active duty Navy is at 90%, but for the Marine Corps, it is at 72%, though both services share the same November 28th deadline. The lowest overall rates of vaccination are in the Army Reserve and Army National Guard. They are both around 40%, which is just half the rate of regular Army's active duty troops at 81%. Still, the Pentagon believes that as the deadlines approach, the vast majority of U.S. service members will carry out their orders to be vaccinated. Now, let's see how courts have been reacting to the pushback against mandates. A court in Ohio sided with 16 unvaccinated athletes. U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit in Cincinnati, Ohio, ruled that Western Michigan University violated the 16 athletes' First Amendment rights. That's by ignoring or denying their religious exemption requests. The university requires all of its intercollegiate athletes to get the COVID-19 vaccine. It does not have a vaccine mandate for the student body as a whole, but its athletes are still required to wear masks at practice and be regularly tested for the virus. All 16 athletes had filed for religious exemptions. The court said the university must explain why it chose not to grant any to the plaintiffs, and it did not fairly do so here. The court stated the university put plaintiffs to the choice: get vaccinated or stop fully participating in intercollegiate sports. By conditioning the privilege of playing sports on plaintiffs' willingness to abandon their sincere religious beliefs, the university burdened their free exercise rights. The mandate would have barred the athletes from playing in games or even practicing with their teams. On the flip side, while religious exemptions seem to be upheld, what about claims to immunity? A federal judge in Michigan ruled against an employee challenging the school's mandate. Gina Norris filed a lawsuit against Michigan State University's mandate on the grounds that she had already contracted COVID-19 and recovered. She presented 2 antibody tests showing her previous infection, and her doctors told her that she didn't need to get the vaccine at this time. But because she is not vaccinated, Norris faces losing her job at the university. The judge, Paul Maloney, declined her lawsuit. Maloney said the mandate didn't violate her fundamental rights, noting a 1905 Supreme Court ruling. That ruling supports the right to require vaccines. Maloney said in his order, this court must apply the law from the Supreme Court. Jacobson essentially applied rational basis review and found that the vaccine mandate was rational in protecting the public health and public safety, adding the court cannot ignore this binding precedent. Norris's lawyers told the Washington Times she is considering other legal options. Norris's case isn't the first of its kind. It follows a similar ruling in California, where a professor also sued on the grounds his previous infection and recovery should exempt him from the mandate. A federal judge there also ruled against him. And now let's shift gears. As holiday season approaches, some are raising concerns with the rising fuel prices. Gas prices have nearly doubled in 17 months. The national average price for gasoline hit a 7-year high on Monday. AAA reports the average for unleaded is $3.27 a gallon, up 7 cents in the past week alone. Prices at the pump are not the only energy cost skyrocketing. Natural gas prices are also up. And Monday crude was on track to finish above $80 a barrel for the first time in 7 years. The U.S. Energy Department has said it had, quote, no plans at this time to use the nation's reserve oil. That's after concerns the emergency reserve would be tapped. And now before we end, a surprise at the Sunset Zoo in Manhattan, Kansas. Workers there are welcoming the addition of a rare albino wallaby named Bruni. After an island off Tasmania, home to about 200 of the melanin challenge marsupials. The wallaby only recently emerged from its mother's pouch months after being born. Zoo officials still don't know whether Bruni is a boy or a girl. Bruni also has a brother named Arlo, who came out of the pouch before Bruni and is not albino. The Joey's caretakers said in a statement, "We have never had 2 Joeys at the same time, so it will be fun to see them play and interact with each other." The 2 additions bring the wallaby count at Sunset Zoo to 5. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.